Thank you. Thank you. Who are you?
I'm a random individual, is that okay? Actually, my name is Lisa Nesselson, and the festival has done me the great honor of giving me the privilege of asking this gentleman a few questions. Before we start, just to put you at ease, I'd like to point out that we're in Vienna, which is in Austria, which is like a whole other country, so anything you say or do this evening will never leave this room. I want you to just be uninhibited, even if that doesn't come
That's what I figured. That's what I figured. Yeah, all those strange little rectangular devices won't be sending this anywhere but in Austria, specifically Vienna. Yeah.
Okay. Well, like any self-respecting moderator, in order to prepare for this evening, I wanted to do some research. And I wanted hard statistical, scientific evidence that you are in fact entertaining and funny, rather than just going by 736 people laughing their heads off because they probably don't know any better. So of course I looked.
Most of them are paid to be here. Appreciate that. You're doing a great job, all of you. You seem very convincing. Yes.
So naturally, I looked at recent master's and doctoral theses, and I would like to share with you two titles.
Okay.
So this one was called Hairstyles as Socioeconomic Signifiers in the Films of Will Ferrell. And also, Male Bravado, the use of penis jokes in the work of Will Ferrell.
Yes.
So my question is, do you see hairdos and penis references as the major avenues of research that our scholars should be pursuing, or are they just going down the wrong path?
There really isn't enough research being done on the topics of hairdos and penises. I think those studies that you referenced they're probably some of the leading universities in the world. And we're uncovering a lot of integral data with those things, yeah. And it's my job to kind of get the word out about hairdos and penises.
And I think we can look forward to some research into facial hair also, do you think?
Facial hair, back hair, butt crack hair.
That was just to test the command of English of the audience.
Yes, yes. So far so good.
So
Das ist good. No? Yeah. Okay.
C'est très bien.
Is that an arrangement of Edelweiss behind you, by the way? Is that the elusive Edelweiss flower? No. Okay. Thank you.
So
Continue.
The Viennale, as you've probably gathered by now, is one of the world's great film festivals. And I'd like to say that they don't give tributes to just anybody, that's true. And in the slot you're occupying this evening, they have also honored some great American talents such as Lauren Bacall, Harry Belafonte, Fay Wray of King Kong fame. So when they approached you about being honored this evening, what was your reaction?
Well, I had thought they had made a mistake, and no, I was extremely flattered. Like I was saying when I first came up here, this is the first time that really there's been a retrospective done on my work at a festival, and to get to, I didn't realize to be screening all these films of mine, and it's about time, and No, and like I also previously said, it's just really great to see a packed theater, and I'm honored to be here. And it's also very flattering that to have comedy kind of put on a pedestal, you know, which it often isn't. It's often, I think, because if comedy's working, it doesn't look like work. And you know, while we do have a lot of fun, there is a lot of thought that goes into the projects I've worked on.
People have really been spoiled for comedy at this year's festival because they have also done a complete retrospective of the work of Jerry Lewis.
Who's that?
He's shorter than you are. How else can I describe him? Some people think he's really funny.
Jerry Lewis, one of the greats, from what I hear. And so, two great American icons. Me and Jerry Lewis. Yeah. Pretty good company.
And speaking of Jerry Lewis, I'm American, as you've probably gathered, but I live in France. And I have it on very good authority, I mean, this is true, the previous French Minister of Culture, so the guy who had the job until about a year and a half ago, is a huge, huge fan of yours.
Okay.
And
what's his name?
Eric Garandot.
Of course. Yes.
So we've just outed him on that front. I hope he can get another job. Because of the characters you play...
I'm going to send him a bouquet of Edelweiss to say thank you.
And he'll get one of those really big government scrapbooks to
yeah.
put it in, I guess. I was going to say, because of the characters you've been known to play, I'm going to assume that you have some fans in low places. Do you know if you have other fans in high places?
Other fans in high places. You know, one of the great compliments that I received was from the recently deceased George Carlin, who my father's a musician and would perform on and off over the years in Las Vegas, and he went to see George Carlin's show, and this was within the last 10 years or so when he was, you know, still performing, and he figured out that it was my dad, and he said, make sure to tell your son that I'm a huge fan and he does it the right way. And that's like one of the, you know, the comedy greats, and to hear that from George Carlin, I'm assuming my dad was telling the truth, but because he likes to drink a lot and he makes stories up. But no, to hear that, it was, and I did hear through some, I think, fairly reliable sources that George Bush thought I was funny too. So I guess he had a sense of humor about the stuff I did.
George Carlin, for those who don't know, that is extremely high praise. And among many of his routines, he was very famous for one called 7 Words You Can't Say on Television.
Exactly.
And Ron Burgundy gets in trouble for saying one of those words.
Yes,
so.
yeah. So it comes full circle.
It all connects. I believe you grew up in a suburban California setting,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that Tim Burton has often referred to the fact that he grew up in a really banal, sort of ordinary place, and that you just had to be creative in order to offset the normalness. Have you ever regretted not growing up in a big urban environment?
No, I mean, I grew up in a very safe kind of, you know, Orange County, California, and I lived in a town called Irvine, which was famous because it was a master planned community with streets were a certain width, and you had a supermarket every 1.2 miles, and, you know, very good schools and very low crime. And I think one of the ways that my friends and myself amused ourselves out of the boredom was to be a little bizarre. Yeah.
So everyone in Irvine is a little bizarre? Or
No,
just
just 5 of us. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I hope you haven't been asked this question a lot. Bear with me. In the 1960s, there's a science fiction classic novel called A Canticle for Leibowitz. And it's about the life on Earth is destroyed in an apocalypse, except for a few survivors. And for hundreds of years, people just survive. And then one day, some people decide to rebuild civilization, but the only documents they can get their hands on are kind of unimportant things like some guy's shopping list for groceries. And they build back human civilization based on that. So my question is, if we were to have that sort of apocalypse and only a few people survived,
Right.
and for some reason the only documents that survived were 1 or 2 Will Ferrell movies and in this fantasy, the equipment to watch them on. So what would be the best guidelines, in your opinion, from your oeuvre for rebuilding life on Earth in a better way?
I think, wow, that's... By the way, I've been asked that question 1,000 times.
I figured.
So, you should have done your research.
It was in Edelweiss Monthly, actually.
I think if the last remaining people of civilization found my 2 films, then they should just shut it down and not go any further. If they had to pick 2, though, I mean, you know, I'm fortunate enough to say that I've really loved working on so many of the movies that I've gotten to be a part of. But Anchorman would be one for sure, because it took us. It was such a struggle to get made, and it really it took us 3 years to get it off the ground. And I think we had one day where 10 studios said no to us, and we couldn't articulate enough to people that no, it's going to be silly, it's going to be funny. It's not a movie about news. It's about these buffoons who think they know everything. So I think that movie in itself represents the struggle to kind of fight for what you believe in, and then I think I would choose Stranger Than Fiction as another movie that I still can't believe to this day that I got cast in. Mark Forrester, who's I think an amazing director, he had that script, and you know he had a choice of either casting a dramatic actor that had some ability to do comedy, or a comedic actor that he felt could possibly do drama, and he went with the latter, and there were a ton of big names who were really trying to play up for the role of Harold Crick, and Mark chose me, and I with that cast of Emma Thompson and Dustin Hoffman and Maggie Gyllenhaal, and I just felt like I was on this all-star sports team, and I just didn't want to mess up, and but to get to kind of do a role like that where I got to act and still be funny, but play everything very real, that movie means a lot to me. So those 2 would be my choice. Yeah.
I think civilization is safe then.
Yeah.
So you are a co-founder of a website called Funny or Die that I believe launched in 2007. And if I understand the principle correctly, there are skits generated by staff, and also other people can upload stuff. And then you ask anyone with an internet connection to vote on whether they think it's funny or not. And do you
Yes.
really believe in the wisdom of the crowd, that the audience is always right?
Well, you wouldn't get into comedy if you didn't enjoy making people laugh, and if you didn't ultimately, have that to be your goal. That having been said, I think comedy is not a democracy. I think it's very tyrannical. You kind of have to just make your choice and stick by it, and hopefully 72% think it's funny, and the other 28%, is that right? 80, yes. If they don't get it, then who cares? That you kind of have to fight for these specific things. Yeah, but the concept of the site was kind of obviously brand new, in that we engaged the users to kind of pick things, but for the most part, the ones that are kind of have more favorable responses usually are fairly funny. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that answer.
You are the 2011 recipient of the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor. And Mark Twain wrote an essay called The Horrible German Language. So I don't know how popular he is in German-speaking countries.
Did you guys know that? Okay.
It's possible to do too much research, I know. But
collect all the Mark Twain books.
Did you do that infomercial?
No, I didn't. No.
Anyway, there was at a point in Mark Twain's lifetime when he was very much alive and kicking, when there was a rumor that he had died, and his response to that was, "Rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated." And I understand that back in 2006, it was erroneously reported that you had died,
right,
and the media ran with it.
In a
and what was that like?
Hang gliding accident, yes. It was really strange. Yeah, I mean, I love hang gliding. Who doesn't? No, it was very bizarre. I got word from my publicist, Matt, who's here tonight, that there's a rumor out there that you've died in a hang gliding accident. And, I think a certain part of me would have maybe thought that was funny, but the sad thing was, with news and how it travels, I had to call all my family members and say, if you see this on CNN, it's not true, just so you know. And so that was a strange feeling. So I took revenge, and every year I spread a rumor that another celebrity has died in a weird way. And that's how I feel better about myself.
But as someone who has been known to make fun of the media, that must have been weird.
Very strange, yeah. And they obviously weren't fact-checking. It's also been reported that I'm a germophobic, and
that's someone who's afraid of Germans?
I carry Germans and germs, yes. I carry my own pen for autographs because I won't touch anything, things like that.
Okay.
But that's not true.
That's not true either. Okay. Some actors have specific skills, like they can... Would you like to sanitize the microphone when you're done? Some actors have specific talents, like they can cry on cue. And you're kind of famous, especially...
Okay, sorry. I just didn't trust this Voselauer. Looked a little shady to me. Straight out of the Danube, yep.
So, certain actors, part of their craft is that they can cry on cue, they
Right.
can have certain things happen on very short notice.
I can wet my pants on cue,
You're famous for
especially after 6 liters of Wasserlauer. Yeah.
You're rather famous, especially in your Saturday Night Live television days, for being able to maintain a poker face when the people around you are having a very hard time,
Right.
remaining serious. Is there a secret to that you could let us in on?
Well, you gotta clench your butt cheeks. Number 1. Which serves 2 purposes. I like to keep like $3 in change back there. And so I always know I've got change. I've got bus fare. And it's not comfortable. And that, inhibits any impulse you might have to laugh during a scene. That and the fact that whenever I'm kind of in a scene and I really approach it as if it's life or death, that it's regardless of how, over the top or fantastical the context may be, that this is really happening. I'm a real character and that these aren't funny things we're saying to each other. And that's always been a way for me to just lock in and commit, and usually I don't break. Yeah. So that's the secret. I hope that doesn't get out on the internet. That's a juicy one. Yeah.
Do you always use American coins? Are they the right size and weight?
It depends. Yeah. It depends where I am. Yeah.
So.
It just depends.
Just depends. Okay. I've read that you've backed what's being described as a 6-part TV miniseries for next year called Spoils of Babylon.
Uh-huh.
What's that about?
Spoils of Babylon is a kind of, it's basically a takeoff on the American miniseries, which used to be so huge in the late 70s, like Winds of War and Shogun and things like that, where novels were kind of committed to these 5-day television events. And as a kid, they were, huge kind of television events. And so we, my buddies Matt Piedmont and Andrew Steele, who I did Casa de Mi Padre with, they have created this Spoils of Babylon, which is an over-the-top miniseries is the best way to describe it. Yeah.
I believe you're a pretty serious distance runner. You like to run.
I do.
And I'm wondering what portion of the kind of comedy you do is intellectual and intuitive, and what portion of it is, say, like Mick Jagger doing a Rolling Stones concert, just sheer physical stamina?
I don't know if I break it down in that way, even though I do, apropos of nothing, like to wear really skinny Mick Jagger jeans and just walk around the house on my tiptoes. That's how I spend a Saturday. And that's what the neighbors say. Woo! I don't know. I don't know if I can kind of break it down that way. Yeah.
You've played a number of characters that could probably be described as stubborn and obnoxious, and I believe you're a father, and I wonder if you ever get into trouble because of that, because you might say, don't do that, and the child would say, but Dad, you did it.
Well, my kids are only 9, 6, and 3, so they haven't seen a ton of my work yet. But I'm sure that will be thrown back in my face once they're of age and said, well, you ran down a street naked, why can't I? yeah, those moments will probably come back to haunt me as a parent.
Okay, Mr. Ferrell has graciously agreed to answer a few questions from the audience. So I guess raise your hands. And we have some microphones. It's hard to see from here. Can you see better than I can?
Oh, I can see one lovely young woman right here. There's someone.
All right. If
Do you
we
want to
have
use
a
my microphone?
Thank you. Sorry, my voice is gone.
That's okay.
You've done a lot of work with Adam McKay,
Yes.
and I was wondering if you could describe your collaboration with him in doing the screenplays. And then also, how much do you actually follow the script and how much is improvisation?
Are you emotional right now?
Yes.
I've done Anchorman, Talladega Nights, Step Brothers, The Other Guys, and Anchorman 2 with Adam McKay, who's a friend that I met on Saturday Night Live, which, for those of you who don't know, is kind of the biggest sketch comedy show in America, and it's been around since 1975. And the original cast was John Belushi and Chevy Chase and Gilda Radner and Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray, and something we all grew up watching and wanted to be a part of. But Adam and I met there and just started writing sketches together, and really kind of shared the same sensibility, shared the same willingness. We loved working very quickly and not kind of laboring over our writing, just kind of spit it out and go with the first idea and double back to it later and maybe change it or maybe not. And a lot of times what we had written the first time was what got on the show. And so we kind of then we decided to write features together, and we had written one script that didn't obviously get made into a movie called August Blowout, which was kind of a Glengarry, Glen Ross meets a car dealership, and it never got made, but it got passed around Hollywood, and a lot of people loved the script. And then we decided to try another idea, and that's where Anchorman was born. But we'll sit around and kind of spitball. We'll take 2 or 3 days where we come up with whatever our central idea is, and think of ideas that are from the smallest detail to a huge plot point, and just throw all of it, on sheets of paper, and then from there throw it into a script, and you never know. Like our first draft of Step Brothers was 180 pages long, and because we just had so much fun writing these scenes that should have been 2-page scenes, and they were 10-page scenes, and then of course we have to go back and make it a more reasonable size, but we kind of it's really not work when we work together. And then as a director, he's kind of I think he's one of the best, if not the best, comedy directors I've ever worked with, because once you're on the set, he's also thinking of additional lines that he's contributing to the scene, and that makes you, gives you ideas, and then it kind of becomes a game to see if we can top each other, and that's how lines like "milk was a bad choice" comes out, or fighting bears at the zoo, and that's kind of the gist of it. I think you get a t-shirt for your question, so there you go. Yeah.
The gentleman in
Hi.
black there?
I will,
Someone-
right here in the middle. I'm very emotional too.
Where are you?
I'm right here.
Where?
Straight back.
You can't miss me. Yeah, right.
Where? Yes.
Hi.
Okay.
Hi.
Thank you.
I'm very emotional too. First of all, thank you for being
Were
here.
you
It's a
standing
tremendous-
during the whole screening of the
Yes.
movie? Were you the only one who stood?
I was the one that was standing.
That's amazing.
Um, we had the fantastic opportunity to see a huge array, a large spectrum of your work, a lot of your feature films, and also your stage work, and also a lot of the SNL shorts that we showed here, or that were shown here. But I was wondering about something else, your relation to stand-up comedy. If stand-up comedy is something you ever did, if it was a good experience, a terrifying experience, and if it was ever something you'd possibly do again.
You know, I did try doing stand-up when I was also taking acting class and trying sketch comedy, and I probably did it for a year and a half, and then I found the Groundlings, which is a improv and sketch comedy group in Los Angeles, and I quickly realized that it was just more fun to do sketches. It was also, you know, less scary to bomb with a bunch of people on stage than just by yourself, and so I kind of abandoned stand-up. That having been said, I would never trade that period of time, and I honestly think anyone who's interested in performing you should force yourself to try stand-up comedy. It's the simplest kind of art form in a way. It's literally you and a microphone and your thoughts, and it's a very naked kind of situation. And when it goes great, there's no other feeling like it in the world. And when it doesn't, you want to, you know, lock yourself in your room and not come out for a month. But to kind of experience that was invaluable. And but I think there's, you know, the stand-ups that I know, you know, someone like Zach Galifianakis, who was in The Hangover, if anyone saw that movie, probably didn't. It wasn't that big. But here's Zach, who's, you know, it took 25 years for him to become an overnight sensation, and he's done stand-up 4 nights a week for all that time. So you really have to work at it if you want to become great at it. That having been said, it's worth trying. Would you like your T-shirt? Yeah. I'm not doing that again. I'm really winded from that.
Yes, the gentleman in the black there. Where's the microphone? Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Ferrell.
Yes.
I love your work.
Oh, thank you.
And the thing is, I don't really have a question, but it fits to the first question that you got asked, because I just finished my diploma thesis about your work with Adam McKay.
Yeah.
I wrote about the 4 movies you made with him, and well, about 8 years ago,
And they let you graduate?
Yeah.
Okay.
They all
I like that school. Yeah.
University of Vienna, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, the people thought when I write about the movies that some of them thought, what are you gonna write about?
Right. Yeah. Like me. Yeah.
I couldn't really tell them what it was about, because it was a kind of a 90-page analysis. And the thing is, I have my diploma thesis with me, and it would really mean the world to me if you could use a pen from me with the German copy and sign it for me. It would be.
Oh, sign it. Sure.
Can I?
And let's see, what's the name of your teacher? Elizabeth Budner, the greatest teacher of all time.